the final student. This is a talk with a theme: avoid uttering or listening to negative speech. This talk will be delivered to us by Brother Johnvee Labiaga.
All of us are probably familiar with a dishwashing sponge. A sponge can absorb any type of liquid. Because of this, it can either be clean or contaminated. If you dip in a bowl of clean water, then you will have a clean sponge. But if you dip in it contaminated water, it will absorb the contamination as well. All of us are like a sponge. There will be some instances that we might be dipped into contaminated water, so to speak, by listening to negative reports. The question is, what will happen to our faith and our relationship to Jehovah if we continue to listen to negative comments? Before we answer this, let's find out what happened to Israel, how Jehovah saved them, and how they responded as they approached the promised land. Let's go back to when Jehovah brought Moses back to Egypt to appear before Pharaoh and demand God's people freedom and deliver the Israelites from slavery in Egypt. The purpose was to restore pure worship and to enter the promised land of God. Pharaoh would not consent, so God sent 10 plagues to Egypt. Whenever Moses appeared before Pharaoh to appease him and prevent the next plague, Pharaoh became stubborn and ignored Moses and Jehovah God. Later, during the 10th plague, Exodus 12:21-39 mentions, it says, Jehovah struck down every firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who was sitting on his throne to the firstborn of the captive who was in the prison, and every firstborn of the animals. When the king found out, 31, he immediately called Moses and Aaron that night and said, Go away, leave my people, you and the rest of Israel. Go away and serve to your God Jehovah, as you said. Exodus 12:51. That same day, Jehovah brought all the Israelites out of Egypt. Jehovah's love and undeserved kindness were a quality that helped the Israelites to feel safe and secure, and this caused God's people to rejoice. Later, as the Israelites camped on Mount Sinai and were very close to entering the promised land, Jehovah made a covenant with them. Through Moses, God gave the law to Israel as guidance and protections in every aspect of life. As long as Israel faithfully submitted to God's rule, Jehovah would be with them and they would be a blessing to others. But what happened? Sadly, most of the Israelites lacked faith in God. Let's read Deuteronomy 1:26-28. It says, But you refused to go up, and you rebelled against the order of Jehovah your God. You kept grumbling in your tents and were saying, It was because Jehovah hated us that he brought us out of the land of Egypt to hand us over to the Amorites to annihilate us. What kind of the place are we going to? Our brothers made us lose heart by saying, They are people greater and taller than we are, and their cities are great and fortified to the heavens, and we saw the sons of Anakim there. Why did God's people lose faith? They were discouraged because of the negative report of some who had been sent to spy out the land. They were afraid and terrified. They began to complain to Jehovah. All the Israelites began to murmur and appoint a new leader back to Egypt. What was the result? Jehovah allowed them to wander in the wilderness for over 40 years, and above all, the intergeneration was barred from entering the good land. Yes, Jehovah cursed his people. So what is the lesson that we can get from this? Let's go back to the question that we raised earlier. What will happen to our faith and our relationship to Jehovah if we continue to listen to negative comments? We can be affected by the negative speech of others, and this might weaken our faith. This turn will lead to Jehovah's disapproval. So avoid speaking or listening to negative speech. May we never like the Israelites who lost out on a beautiful reward. Let us remember that negative thinking is even more deceptive. Instead, be positive and focus on the things that will help us. In the present system of things, we cannot eliminate all negative emotions, but we can make Jehovah's heart rejoice, and we can be saved if we remain faithful to Him. And if we serve Him faithfully, we can look forward to the future reward.
Thank you, Brother JV, for that wonderful talk. So for me, I think your talk was coherent and logical. Sister Brother JV's assignment in study number 13, practical value made clear. So how did JB do that in his talk? The second bullet of the brochure, it mentions right from the start, its listener should realize this involves me. So how did JB do that? He mentioned at the start of his talk, what happens to your faith and your relationship to Jehovah if you listen to negative comments. So by saying those, by asking that question, the audience could realize, oh yes, what would happen to my relationship to Jehovah if I listen to negative speech. And then, have you noticed in the last part of his talk, he also repeated that question to reinforce that his talk would benefit his listener. So thank you, Sister JB, for showing us that in your presentation. Okay, he also nicely discussed one Bible scripture and how it is applied to our in relation to his topic, Deuteronomy 1:26 and 28. He highlighted there the experience of the Israelites, how they listened to negative reports and how Jehovah cursed them. At the last part of his talk, there was also a call to action. He said, let's focus on positive things, do positive things. So thank you, Sister JB. Brother JV, for your wonderful part. Why do I keep saying sister? I'm sorry, Brother JV. Okay, so that's the end of the Apply Yourself to the Field Ministry.